Mcleod's book presents original and insightful interpretations of less explored passages in London's novels, poems, and occasional ethnographic works. Through a careful selection of both canonical and obscure texts, Mcleod revisits the city's literature without overstating the broader implications of his findings, avoiding the conflation of post-colonial London with post-colonial Britain. The result is a collection of intelligent, contextual, and site-specific reinterpretations that facilitate a thorough reassessment of the cultural and literary significance of these works, taking into consideration the varied histories and circumstances of individual writers' arrivals in London. Post-colonial London demonstrates a heightened awareness of the broader implications of both male and female authors, extending beyond a mere analysis of the city's literature, to potentially illuminate the historicization of Black British writing. Mcleod pays particular attention to the contributions of Black women, highlighting their political resistance against sexism and racism before and beyond the formalization of Black women's groups in the 1970s and 1980s, such as the Southall Black Sisters, page 125. When examining the critical reception of novels and poems by Black women, he warns against interpreting such works solely as documentaries, emphasizing their experimental and imaginative aspects. In a subsequent chapter, Mcleod equally stresses the importance of resisting this inclination when analyzing men's writing, notably focusing on the dub poetry of Linton Kwesi Johnson from the 1970s and 1980s. In his introduction, Mcleod critically assesses the notion of post-colonial London, drawing on Aniel Lumba's 1998 perspective that post-colonial studies extends beyond examining how colonies were affected by colonialization and decolonization, also considering the impact on the metropolis itself. The concept of post-colonial London acknowledges the enduring influence of the colonial process on the city, particularly post-World War II. It emphasizes that post-colonial London is not a fixed location, but emerges at the intersection of the tangible and the conceptual, blending the material conditions of metropolitan life with imaginative representations. Mcleod's study from the 1950s onward investigates how newcomers from formerly colonized nations reshaped London's cultural meanings and nurtured novel perspectives on city life. It also explores how residing in and writing about London facilitated new ways of contemplating regional, national, diasporic, and transcultural identities. Mcleod underscores that post-colonial London is distinct from the study of post-colonial England, highlighting the capital's disjointed relationship to the nation. He provides compelling evidence to suggest that representations of post-colonial London are shaped by the city's disjunctive ties to the nation. Furthermore, the book conceptualizes London as a composite of diverse neighborhoods with a range of post-colonial influences that do not necessarily converge. Chapter 1, covering the period 1950-59, delves into the consequences of Caribbean and African migration to London. It examines the specifically masculine spatial creolizations portrayed in Sam Selvon's The Lonely Londoners, as well as Colin McInnes' novels City of Spades and Absolute Beginners. Mcleod argues that the optimism and utopianism depicted in these novels challenge standard historicizations that often focus on the bleakness of London for newly arrived migrants. The chapter Making a Song and Dance explores the joyous calypso and procession, following the West Indies' historic victory over England in the Second Test of June 1950. Mcleod contends that this spontaneous subcultural moment reflects London's continual transformation, forming an impromptu calypsonian circuitry that connects the city in unforeseen ways. Examining Selvon's The Lonely Londoners, Mcleod emphasizes lesser-known episodes, and asserts that the novel captures the popular cultural inertias of 1950s migrants, particularly the calypsonian vision of a different London one, asserting the right to tenure, claiming the benefits of migration, and potentially transforming the pedagogical dissemination of national identity. Chapter 2 delves into the writings of V.S. Naipaul, Doris Lessing, and Janet Frame during the 1960s. It posits that Lessing and Frame capitalized on London's post-war decline, subjecting the city to a liberating and liberalizing post-colonial critique. Challenging the prevailing assumption that black women migrants were merely adjuncts to male counterparts, the chapter explores how three women writers from the 1970s and 1980s, Buchi Emiketa, Joan Riley, and Grace Nichols, disrupted masculine delineations of London spaces. While Emiketa and Riley question the gendered foundation of the optimism in 1950s novels, with their exploration of the complexities of movement, Nichols' poems envision a transformative female cultural and spatial agency. Mcleod highlights Emiketa's early anticipation of academic observations on fractures in the category of Black Britishness. Chapter 4 focuses on the tumultuous conflicts in 1980s London, examining critical responses to the representation of riots in the dub poetry of Linton Kwesi Johnson, Hanif Quraishi's film, Sammy and Rosie Get Laid, 1988, and Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses, 1988. Consistent with the book's commitment to engaging with the classed dimensions of post-colonial London writing, Mcleod explores the uneasiness in Quraishi and Rushdie's narratives regarding popular revolt in 1980s London. Chapter 5 explores the representation of 1990s London in David Dappadine's novel The Intended, and the poetry of Fred Daguerre, as well as in Bernardine Evaristo's prose poem Lara. This is contrasted with more optimistic depictions of transcultural London, as seen in the critical reception of Zadie Smith's less skeptical and troubled vision of the city.